folks, I'm Jean Tiberio, and I'm a nutritionist and a wellness coach. Welcome to Healing Outside the Box. Today I'm going to talk about something that perhaps we'd rather not discuss. And no, it's not bald spots or hemorrhoids. It's the content of our children's school lunches. Yes, I'm going there. I'm going to start with a quote from a guy named Eric Adams, who resides in Brooklyn. And yes, I know it's Brooklyn, but it's still valid. Quote, "We cannot continue feeding our children substances that are scientifically proven to increase their chances of cancer later in life." End quote. And later I'll be getting into the weeds. Oh, I love a good cliche. And giving you a personal story about how I helped some local grammar school kids build a vegetable garden in their school, about 3 blocks away from here. Recently, I watched a video on YouTube called Edutopia, Edible Schoolyard Yields Seed to Table Learning. This is a wonderful video with all kinds of great ideas about how to get this type of healthy eating education in local schools. So after watching this, I decided to do this week's episode just on the idea around how we can get schools around the country to jump on this bandwagon. In other words, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Perhaps just watch these successful schools and basically what they do. Then follow what works and avoid what doesn't. So let's take a look at what they do. Now, for a little background, we all know that school lunches are known for being, well, terrible. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were giving school kids frozen pizza from God only knows when and hot pastrami. The only days that were decent were the tuna sandwich days. They started replacing fresh fruit with fruit cups that were soaked in high fructose corn syrup. Then the government decided to take money from Pizza Hut and Coca-Cola and bring in the vending machines. And I don't need to tell you that the result is 15-year-old children who are morbidly obese and diabetic. But now, across the country, school lunches are getting better in some really unique ways. They're investing in local farmers and using technology to grow fruits and vegetables on smaller plots of land. You've got indoor tower gardens in Vermont, raised beds in New York City, and food gardens in Native American tribal communities. They did a farm-to-school census back in 2015, and it showed that more than 7,000 schools were growing school gardens. And it's not just happening in Brooklyn. It's happening in low-income districts in the Deep South and on Native American lands. So let's talk about a few of these initiatives in local school districts. My hope is that some of you will get some ideas and share them with your local tribe in your town. Number 1. Perhaps the most important name to remember is Alice Waters. Alice was noted for starting this whole thing. She came up with the Edible Schoolyard project in California. I'll give you the link to one of her YouTube videos in the show notes, but you can also just Google Alice Waters or search her name on YouTube. This project includes both a schoolyard garden with fruits and vegetables and a kitchen classroom where the teachers bring in the produce and the kids make school lunches with them. In other words, there's 2 different classrooms going on. I've done something like this myself in a local grammar school just a few blocks from here. This is Salem, Massachusetts, by the way. So the first classroom is about preparing the soil and adding compost. And here we can teach the kids about how compost works and why it's important. Then there's the planting of the seeds or starter plants. And then the watering and thinning out as needed. Then the kids pick the produce when they're ripened and cook the school lunches with the fresh produce. This would naturally include lessons about vitamins that come from these plants and how to make a meal with different food groups. I held an outdoor class in the schoolyard and I explained the different types of vegetables, the greens, the reds, so forth, and what's in them, and basically why it's important to have a good variety of food in your diet. I remember I was watching one of these videos by Alice Waters, and the kids were reciting the term FBI. fungi, bacteria, insects. And that equals good soil. And if you don't want to kill the worms and all those fungi, bacteria, and insects, it's a good idea not to fertilize with tons of liquid anhydrous ammonia. Now, I may be biased. Well, I am biased. But I have a hard time thinking about a more important topic for kids to learn. If they grow it and cook it, they want to eat it. Number 2. Students at Brockman Elementary School in Columbia, South Carolina, are taught nutrition education in the school's garden and include nutrition in their curriculum. Here they are learning that we should not only care about our health once we're diagnosed with diabetes or heart disease. There's ways to prevent those things from happening. And of course, in addition to the diabetes and heart disease, we've got irritable bowel disease, multiple food allergies, and skyrocketing rates of cancer. In the middle schools in particular, we have a captive audience because they're old enough to learn this stuff, but not too old to think that they know everything. So in my opinion, there should be lots of attention to specific nutrition-related health information in the middle school curriculum. For example, as we were just talking about, they should be learning that you need both earthworms and beneficial bacteria to produce vitamins and flavor compounds in the soil that's taken up into the food. If they, in South Carolina, can put down their Confederate flags and teach their kids nutrition, we can do it anywhere. Number 3. In a low-income school in Medford, Oregon, they are now preparing and serving scratch meals to over 300 kids. Now, almost all of the kids in this school live below the federal poverty line, and almost half do not speak English in the home. Yet someone by the name of Tom Cole took the time and energy to build the Kids Unlimited Academy, or KUA. So these kids get 3 healthy meals per day, cooked from scratch. Tom Cole says, quote, "If we're really going to try to change their lives, we need to realize that we are their primary source of nourishment." End quote. Number 4. More than 50 school districts across the U.S. have begun observing Meatless Mondays. This is cool because even bringing the subject up will start a conversation about why reducing our meat consumption is important. These trends are starting to happen worldwide as well. For example, schools in Brazil have just instituted a 30% minimum for ingredients to come from organic sources that are locally farmed. The benefits here seem obvious, but let's quote Miguel Valeria from Novato, California, who said this, quote, "Meatless Monday allows me to continue educating our students, teachers, and community about the benefits of eating more plant-based foods and less meat." End quote. If a pilot program in Brooklyn works out, Meatless Mondays could be implemented in all of the schools in all 5 boroughs in New York City. 1,200 of New York City public schools now offer plant-based school lunch options. Number 5. This is related to number 4. The Los Angeles Unified School District, which is the second largest school district in the country, is going to offer a vegan lunch option in every school in the district. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on this particular item. When I looked into the examples of what they're serving, I found this. Instead of taking something like Sloppy Joe's and making it with lentils, I think they need people who know how to cook child-friendly meals. Because simply replacing meat in a traditional meat recipe may not work with kids. Just my little opinion. Number 6. There's a program going on throughout the country called the Farm to School Network. This network helps teachers and school council people to promote local farm-raised foods in school cafeterias. The USDA here is now offering resources and grants to help get their local farmers contributing to the school lunches. The Farm to School Network also helps schools incorporate school gardens in order to promote education and hands-on learning. In other words, they can provide the framework to show school districts how to teach the kids to grow the peppers, pick the peppers, and make a peppery school lunch. We also have studies out there I know, more studies that prove that you can get kids eating more fruits and vegetables if they know that these fruits and vegetables exist. And if you think I'm kidding, you should watch the TED Talk where Jamie Oliver holds up different vegetables and the kids don't know what they are. Just go to YouTube and type in Jamie Oliver TED Talk. You'll be shocked at what the kids don't know about fruits and vegetables, but that can clearly change. Number 7. Several schools are on their way to eliminating processed foods from school lunches, and a few of them have already. A resolution was brought forth to the New York City School Council to ban processed meat in New York City schools. That means that the hot pastrami sandwich served on Mondays at my school will no longer happen. By the way, I have no idea how hot pastrami is made, and I have no interest in learning. Now, the ban would also include hot dogs, in my opinion, long overdue, pepperoni, bacon, sausage, and deli meats. Back in 2015, the World Health Organization, or WHO, declared these processed meats to be a possible carcinogen in humans, and that would be us. Number 8. One school in Detroit, Michigan has simply decided not to serve chicken nuggets, whatever they are. That school is also eliminating hot dogs and corn dogs in their school. They have added whole grain breads, fresh fruits, lean meats, and salads. All Detroit public schools now buy 22% of the produce from local farms within Michigan. I imagine that trend will continue. Number 9. The Oakland Unified School District has joined forces with the Center for Good Food Purchasing and is now trying to serve minimally processed food ingredients in their school lunches. They're also doing something more. They're looking for companies that follow fair labor practices and that pay their workers a living wage. They report that the findings are that they are providing healthy school lunches while still adhering to a tight budget. I imagine you know that Oakland has a lot of low-income families. Number 10. Now, you know Berkeley, California is going to get into the act. The Berkeley Unified School District has now eliminated the following: processed foods, including hydrogenated fats, high fructose corn syrup, refined flour, especially no bromate. You don't want bromate in your flour, just FYI. They're also trying to reduce dyes, questionable additives, and nitrates. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, Gene, that's Berkeley and Brooklyn. They're probably doing things in their school districts that are not possible in mine. Well, remember that I also mentioned low-income school districts. At the very least, planting a vegetable garden in every schoolyard in the country is something that any school can do. Now, are we going to have squirrels or other four-legged creatures eating some of the produce? Possibly. Are we going to forget to water the vegetable garden on a holiday weekend? Possibly. But here's what I have to say about all of that. If we don't teach kids how to deal with possible obstacles or roadblocks along the way, then we haven't done the whole job as teachers. If you want any suggestions about how to start a fruit and vegetable garden in the schoolyards in your town, feel free to contact me on my contact page, which is on my website, healingoutsidethebox.com. You can also add a question to the comments section on my website. I will get back to you with information and resources. Now, if you prefer to make your own children's lunch and want some ideas, let me know what your child likes and I'll give you some suggestions. I just had the thought that it would be real nice to get women involved. And that way we can show the guys that in this particular case, and in many cases perhaps, we're more than willing to lead the way and help others to do the right thing. Now, that's all I have for you today. Be well and stay tuned next week for another episode of Healing Outside the Box.